But today's video is all about improving my photography, and in particular trying to get an understanding of what I declare is street photography and where I'd like to see myself improve and head. I don't know if this is rare or not, but I'm kind of marveling at the fact that this water system, the whole infrastructure, is kind of like a train station on water. Like it literally is two platforms. As much as they're called piers, they're stations, they're platforms. I don't know, I find it kind of interesting. Let me know if there's anywhere else in the world that has this type of waterway system. I'm loving it in Bangkok. I think it's a great way to get around. The boats are a little bit dirty and polluted, so that could be, upgraded. But the actual system, I think it's great. So we've come down to some of the older parts of Bangkok, towards Koh San Road, which is probably one of the most famous streets for like backpacking bars and other stuff. We're not going to be heading there. We'll probably be skirting around the outside of it and other areas. But as a district, this is an area of Bangkok that we've not really explored too much this trip. Definitely done it before, and if you remember, I think it was 5 years ago, I did a night photography of some of the flower markets. That was a video that was, it was a lot of fun to make. That was so long ago. But anyway, and I want to be focusing on improving my street photography. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've got a few things and a few directions that I want to do. And I think the timing of this trip and everything, it feels like the right time to be adjusting things. Saw those monks coming up, so just held my ground. I was like, I'm gonna get this shot. Knowing full well in my head that a car was gonna come past at the exact same time. Managed to get, I think, one shot, maybe two shots, but yeah. For as long as I've been taking photography seriously, which is about 16 years or so now, I've gone through various different avenues of different genres and things that I've kind of enjoyed and where I've been interested in. So I started off with landscape photography, and I was kind of excited by that. This was when I was about 15, 16. And then I started going into like sort of, events and things that were sort of moving and activity. And I got interested in sports, and I started playing and dabbling with that. But eventually I found my way into travel, and more particularly urban and street photography. But there's one thing that I find really interesting, and that is the perception of what is street photography. Everyone's got their own sort of definition of it. If you do a Google search for street photography, it will throw up hundreds, if not thousands, of images that all look very similar. You can almost guarantee that it will be filled with black and white images, high contrast, lots of movement, and probably a lot of people. There's a lot of people who would say that street photography has to include people. There are people who comment on my photos in the past and they've said, it's not street photography, where are the people? Is that not street portraiture? Your definition really changes. And so for me, I've sort of found an area that I like within urban and street photography, but I want to improve it and I want to work on it. So like I said, street photography all comes down to your own sort of personal description of it. For me, I generally class it as like urban and travel photography, but I do kind of think if you're taking photos in the streets, it's street photography. There's just maybe some subgenres of what you'd want to capture. For some people, they feel like they always have to have people in it. Other people may think that, I just want to capture the streets. Naturally, when I'm out and about taking photos, the things that draw my attention are streets and alleyways and just sort of long views of things. I made a commitment a few years back to make sure that I was always including some sort of subject within those alleyway scenes if I can. And quite often I'm drawn to having them as fairly small and sort of nondescript, but some sort of element of scale within the image. But going forward and looking at images that I enjoy that I've taken and from other people, I find myself always wanting to get closer.
If you want, I take you to from here, from Bangkok to the floating market. After you buy ticket, the boat like that.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Careful.
And so one of the ways that I want to improve my images is by making my subjects larger. And I'd much rather continue to shoot with primes. As you know, one of my favorite lenses is the 35mm f2. And so getting closer, you know, I'm not necessarily zooming in, I'm zooming with my feet. And that's a tricky thing because the images that I take most of the time, they're in my comfort zone. And I'm effectively having to go into an area that's a little bit uncomfortable. It's not natural for me, but I do know that you get better results from it. And the whole point of this channel is that it's sharing my journey on a long-term basis. You're not going to arrive at these videos and think that these are the best photos you could ever see, ever, because this is a journey. I don't know how long this journey is, I don't know where on this journey I am, but that's what I love about documenting it with video, is that you see that progression, and over the years, I've seen progression in my images, and I always want to know where things are going to head and where they're going to end up. So I'm almost saying this as like a chapter marker for myself, of this is a point of where I'd like to improve my images. So getting out of your comfort zone is of course one of the best ways that you can develop a skill and improve on things. It doesn't make it easy though. It's definitely hard work, and this I think is going to be a long process. But this is where I think this is kind of maybe some of the best timing to do that. See, not having traveled for the last 2 years or so has made me just so desperate to travel and to get back into doing travel photography. And I think you can agree that these videos I've made in Thailand, although they've been short and they've been kind of, you know, bite-sized in many elements, they've had this natural passion that I just don't think I've really been able to feel when I've been back in London over the last 2 years. And so using that passion is one of the best ways to elevate your chances of improving your growth. However, there is maybe one difficulty, and that is of course making these videos. By making videos about photography, by nature, I'm always going to have 2 cameras. I'm always going to have a big fluffy microphone on the camera. And so my area of inconspicuousness when out taking photos is just wider. And so maybe some of the best ways I could improve my photography are when I'm not making videos. I don't quite know how that's going to sit on the channel. I think what you may end up seeing is maybe some more travel style videos in amongst, you know, some of the photography ones, rather than every video being a photography vlog. And the feedback I had from my survey, thank you to so many of you, honestly hundreds of you have actually filled that in. The feedback has been overwhelmingly positive to that as an idea, and it's so clear to me now where people are interested in the channel, and that's with the photography stuff and the travel and the lifestyle of things. It's not necessarily specific to a photography mindset of stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of the lifestyle of a photographer. The feedback on the audience survey has also been overwhelmingly positive about the idea of various things that I want to release in the near future. It takes a lot of time to work on these things, but things like books and prints and digital, this isn't digital, but merch. Those are all things that you guys seem to be really interested in. I've been wanting to release these for a long time. Prints in particular, I've wanted to do more prints for a very long time. I've wanted to have a store set up where I can offer quantities of prints. At the moment, I've only ever really done prints when people have personally messaged or they've commissioned or things like that. And I've done it on a one-by-one basis. And of course, books. As you know, my background is in design and I love typography, and so putting together a typographic photo book of things and travel, like all things combined, it's all of my passions aligning, and that is absolutely something that I've been working on for a little while, but I really want to ramp up the time that I'm putting into it. And so in order to get some of my better images that I think would be suitable for things like books and prints, it means I really need to focus on that photography. And if it means that some of those best images aren't going to come from when I'm out making videos, then so be it. Of course, I'd love to see that connection where, you know, a photo that you see can also trigger a memory of the vlog that you saw, that you see the build up to that image. But at the same time, if we think really objectively about wanting to improve the photography, there may just be times when I'm doing it with a single camera and I'm just out and about with my Fuji. By the way, if you've not filled in the audience survey, I've left it linked in the description, and I will continue to do that for the next few videos or so going forward, just so that I've got like a wider net on the types of videos that people are coming to that they then may click through to the survey. So for example, if I did it in a gear-based video, the answers may be tailored towards gear-based answers because people obviously found it because of that video, and doing it from a lifestyle video and vice versa and things like that. So I'll keep mentioning it. The link is in the description, right below that like button. You know, sometimes one of my favorite ways of getting images is to stand at the side of the road and just let the subjects come to you. This is kind of an interesting sort of perspective because we've got a lot of greenery amongst the urban sort of area. And this is something that I've kind of been interested by, is trying to find some urban areas that feel like they're being taken over by sort of tropical or like jungle vibes, you know? I'm sure some of the cities and towns towards the edges of Thailand may be kind of suitable for that, or perhaps even other places entirely, like Cambodia and Vietnam. Those are two countries I would love to visit. Really wanting to plan a trip there someday. Unfortunately, not on this trip. We do have to head back to the UK, and of course we are still desperately hoping for Japan to open the borders. Kind of a bit ridiculous now, this travel ban, but we're hoping Japan may open for the summer at some point. Ellie can get to see her family, and we can go and make some great videos. You just getting filmed today?
Yeah, I'm waiting for the old bus.
Get the old bus.
The old bus.
Get the old bus.
Yeah.
Banger of the banger. Oh yeah. Nice.
Got it.
I'm feeling optimistic about the potential of this area. I think there's some shots to be had, but this is also where it gets very difficult because getting photos whilst out and about making videos is tremendously difficult. However, I do think it is one of the greatest strengths of this channel, is that they're videos out and about. I'm not behind the desk, I'm not just running through my photos that I've already taken, I'm trying to bring you along for that journey. And I think that's a vibe that is something I should try and maintain on the channel. Roti Mataba, yes please.
Then should we go to the ferry?
Okay.
At the ferry, go woo 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 over the road.
Yeah, this looks Uh-oh. We were just went to have some food, a place called Roti Mataba, and we'd been there before, so we had it saved on the map. This was like 5 years ago. Unfortunately, it didn't quite hit the spot like it did then. I don't know, slightly different, but also it took a little bit longer. And now we're maybe just missing this banging sunset. I think we might have just missed the last boat, so we're gonna have to resort to taking the train, which is a shame because today could have been a boat-filled day. But funnily enough, we've just seen a suspension bridge. I can't remember the name of this bridge. I think it's the King Rama crossing. But yeah, you know I love me a bridge. That's a cool one. Wouldn't have seen that otherwise. So yeah, you win some, you lose some. Anyway. Let's make it back to our hotel with some rounding thoughts. Doors up. Back at the hotel now, obviously, and just wanted to round out with some of my sort of closing thoughts on the idea of where I want to improve and get closer and things like that. And there's this overarching feeling and thought that I have, and that is when I leave my comfort zone and I get closer into something, it also means that I'm entering someone else's uncomfort zone. And so there is like a bit of a boundary there where I don't want to cross that line. And so there is kind of a limit that I want to go to. And there's one thing that I'm always cautious of with my photography is that I never really want to exploit someone. I especially don't want to exploit people like the elderly, the disabled, children, homeless, you know, all sorts of different things that you do see a lot of in street photography. And it's not a nice feeling. It's not a nice feeling taking that. It's not a nice feeling seeing images of someone clearly, you know, being exploited in an image. So that's always a boundary that I never want to cross. And so I do feel like as much as I want to get closer into my images and make my subject slightly larger, is something that's not going to be a huge difference, but it's just that step closer. You know, things like where a bike's coming towards me, it's just holding the shot ever so much longer until the bike is just a little bit closer to make it really prominent as a subject, and then stepping out of the way. It's things like that. So as I said before, this channel is all about my journey within photography, and it's a documentation of that process. And so sometimes when I read, you know, unconstructive criticism on either my images or other people's images, it raises eyebrows, because all that says to me is that that person is not on the journey themselves, to not recognize that someone else is also on that journey. And so this is a pathway to improving photography, and you just happen to be watching it at this moment in time. So I look forward to making future videos and hopefully continuing to improve my photography, and we'll see where this goes. Like I said, this is a chapter marker for me and the channel. And yeah, we will catch you in another video from Bangkok super soon. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. See you later. Bye bye.